Today, we're going to talk about smart buildings, but what I want to talk about is looking beyond where we're looking today and where they're going to get to in the future. And when we look at the technologies that we can apply to them today, a lot of it's about automation. But I believe the way that buildings are going to get to in the future is going to be much more about human-machine collaboration. Before I do that, a bit more about myself. I have a very strange background. I started out in Chicago and Amsterdam working in investment banking 30 plus years ago. And eventually I got recruited by a consulting firm to help banks and law firms start to use this new funky technology called the internet. And so I jumped ship, moved over to London, and then I started really working in this new wave of innovation. And what happened around that time is it was this whole era of unprecedented innovation that we've had over the last 25 years. If you guys get bored of me talking today, you're going to pull out your iPhone or your Samsung Galaxy and you're going to start scrolling Instagram. If that was 25 years ago, to put it in perspective, you'd be pulling out your Nokia phone and playing Snake. So things have changed quite a bit during that period of time. But what I've been able to do over these 25 years is have a lot of fun, because I like trying to understand innovation, not from the technology perspective, but what prevents us from adopting it going forward. And my career started out, like back then after the consulting, I got recruited into the mobile industry. And that was because they wanted me to help them launch the BlackBerry and take that into the bank. So we suddenly had email in the palm of our hands and ruined work-life balance forever from that point on. I went from there over to Vodafone, and then I moved out to Asia Pacific, where I was head of innovation for BT. So I really understood the telecoms industry. And then I got recruited by IDC, and I was an analyst heading up mobility, telecoms, and the Internet of Things for Asia Pacific for them. Also met a lot of interesting people, and I like to talk a lot, so I started a podcast on that. I also then left that industry about 8-9 years ago, and I started my own strategy consulting firm. But I have been a senior advisor for McKinsey over the years, where I advise clients on Industry 4.0, IoT, 5G, sustainability, you name it. But that's 3 different areas where people are looking at innovation from a different perspective. I also wanted to look at it from the VC side. So I got very active working with the guys from Spark Labs out of Korea and Silicon Valley. We set up a smart cities and PropTech venture builder. I worked with the World Bank Group to set up their innovation hub in Korea. But that's another side. And then I wanted to understand the public sector more. So I've worked closely with the city of Taipei, and I've been an advisor for them for over 10 years. I'm driving their smart cities initiatives. I sit on the board of the Global Organization of Smart Cities. So I understand how the public sector looks at these things. In academia, as Bob mentioned, I've been a visiting scholar for Stanford, looking at smart cities and how to drive innovation in there. And then I did a really strange one. I ended up joining a design firm. But there's a method to this madness. You see, I became friends with this guy named Tim Kobe. And Tim was approached by Steve Jobs about 30 years ago. And Steve said to him, I want to create a retail store. And Tim was the guy with this company who created the Apple stores. So all the behaviors and experience that you experience today are the ones that he designed back then. And what we talked about a lot over the years was, what if you took those same methodologies and those same behaviors that you're trying to drive and applied it to the technology industry? Because in technology, we talk tech. We're not good at talking about human outcomes. So I spent time with them. So why am I telling you this? What I really do, and what I try to do, is I try to help clients and people make sense of this complex innovation ecosystem. And I've done a lot of work for some of the biggest companies in the world, and I'm very fortunate to have done that, whether it's mobile operators, whether it's technology vendors, device manufacturers. Many of the people who are presenting and sponsoring today have been my clients in the past, and I try to help people make sense of it. And that's what I want to do with smart buildings. I want to help you make sense of where it's going and what it's going to take for us to get there. But first, I have a confession to make. I have a dilemma, because I have a love-hate relationship with the technology industry. I love the fact that we have technologies that can transform the way we work, live, and play, but I hate the fact that as an industry, we overhype technologies, we oversimplify what it takes to deliver them, and we underdeliver. And we've been doing this, whether it was with GPRS, 3G, 4G, 5G, IoT, digital twins, and now GenAI. So we do this consistently, because great technology and great innovation does not guarantee adoption. Most of you will remember the Google Glass. That was an amazing piece of kit, great innovation, but it died. Why? Because we didn't understand the human outcomes that it was going to deliver. We didn't think through that maybe people didn't want you just walking around looking at them, taking pictures of them all day long. So we have to start looking at what prevents us from doing that. And I think what happens as an industry is we push technology for technology's sake. That's what Google Glass did. we forget that technology exists to deliver human outcomes. But now I need to explain to you what I mean by human outcomes. And I need to have a piece of technology to do that. So I'm going to explain to you what I mean by human outcomes by explaining digital twins. Now, this is a smart buildings event. I'm sure everybody here is an expert. Is everybody an expert in digital twins? No experts in not one, not even one. How many think it's just a buzzword and we overhyped it? Okay, how many people have the ability to use their arms at all? Because not one hand is even going up. Okay. Well, in case you don't understand digital, okay, how about this? How many people know what it's like to sit in traffic? And for those of you who aren't raising your hands, where do you live? Because everywhere I've lived, I've sat in traffic. Okay, if you can understand what it's like to sit in traffic, I can make you understand a digital twin at its core level. So, but I need a human now, because I got to explain to you human outcomes. So I've chosen this guy. He's Mr. Angry Road Rage Guy, and he hates sitting in traffic. And right now, he's stuck. He wants to have an outcome delivered to him. He just wants to get home fast. That's the human outcome we want, get him home fast. But right now, he's stuck in Bangkok outside of the Big C Supercenter in this massive traffic jam. And he's getting more and more angry because he hates traffic. But he can look around and he can see all these different buses there. And the bus company has sensors on those buses. And the bus company knows, hey, my buses are stuck in traffic, but they don't know why. There could have been an accident or it could just be normal traffic. And he's looking, he can see all the taxi drivers. And all the taxis, their data sits over here with the taxi company. And they know they're stuck in traffic, but they don't know why. But he can also see all these different cameras around. And it's from the city. They own those cameras. And they know there's traffic, but they also know it's not an traffic situation when there's been an accident. It's just normal everyday traffic in Bangkok. And if we combine all these different databases that sit from the city, from what you have with the taxi companies, the bus companies, you can overlay that in a map and see it in real time, which is basically what Google Maps has been doing for a decade, so that's not rocket science, right? But then what if they said, Charles, we're going to let you go and play with the system, and you can see where there's jams, and you can start changing streetlights automatically to actually allow traffic to flow through much better. Well, that'd be great, except in a city like Bangkok, you've got tens of thousands of them. I couldn't do it. So what I would do is use artificial intelligence to learn that when there's a backup in one direction and not in the other, we change the lights to ease the traffic flow. So that's great. Cities all over the world are doing this right now, especially the one to check out is Alibaba's City Brain. It's brilliant. It's all over China, KL, Dubai. The value is amazing. So now, we've gotten there, but we've got to go back to this guy because we need to give him his human outcome. What if I walked up to him and said, okay, I got great news for you. I'm going to aggregate data that sits on disparate databases across the public sector and the private sector, and then I'm going to use artificial intelligence to learn how to automate a process and start explaining the technical things that's going to happen. He's going to get more angry. But what if I just said this to him? I've got this cool new tech, and it's going to get you home fast. That's all he wants to hear because he doesn't care about the technology. He just wants to get home fast. And that makes him less angry. Now, this is how we make this mistake within buildings and every other aspect of technology. We explain the technology. The people who need it don't care about it. They just want the human outcome delivered. And that's what we're able to do when we start changing this and start talking about these human outcomes. But now let's take this to our buildings now when we start looking at it. The first phase of it's really not that hard. You want to deliver human outcomes to your employees. And normally what you would say is you want our employees to feel informed, empowered, and valued. If you look at any survey around the world, they don't, but that's a whole separate issue for you to deal with in your organizations. But this is what we would want our employees to feel. And then so we start off saying, well, great, we'll just aggregate all of our building management systems together and create a platform, and we can then deliver value. We can increase the useful life of our assets, better manage it, cut our costs. And that's great, because then you're delivering human outcomes to a facilities manager. But guess what? Digital twins, it's all about the business case. And someone's going to realize that if you're just giving that technology-focused benefit to the facilities manager, that doesn't stack up. Plus, you don't need a digital twin. You can do it with software. But then what if we did this? What if we started aggregating more data? And we took our people data that we have around our building, our sensors, so we know where people are working at, how our common areas are being used. We combine our environmental information about our carbon emissions and all of our assets, whether it's going to be our robots or whatever else. We combine all of that information, and then we say, okay, let's deliver that value to more stakeholders. For instance, what if I could go to the workplace manager and tell them, I can give you information in real time so you can see how your offices are being managed. They could then improve the quality of the space, use it more efficiently, and get rid of unneeded spaces if needed. It makes her job much better. But then there's also your chief sustainability officer. Number one, she's got to create strategies, so she needs the information to know where they are and where they're going. So it helps her do her job, but then she's also got to go and report it to her bosses and to the market. So that helps her actually achieve her outcomes that she needs to do. And then you've got your chief financial officer. He just cares about money. He doesn't care about the tech, but how could I reduce my costs? By giving him that money, he sees how he's extending the useful life. That means he doesn't spend as much, but he also has to go on the earnings calls and explain to people what they're doing around sustainability. I guess, except in the US anymore, because that's all changed now. But anyway, that's a whole nother story again. What we're doing is giving more information to people to help them feel informed, empowered, and valued. That's what we want to do. The benefit of that is your business case starts to stack up. It's not just about a simple tech automation. You're delivering human outcomes to stakeholders who need the technology and the information that you're going to be getting from that technology, but don't care about the technology. But they also have budgets, so you can use them there. So this is what you try to do, is to really focus on not just the technology, but talk to the people who are your stakeholders in terms that they care about. And we don't do that as an industry. But that sounds good, but show me a company that has actually done it. So, well, fine, glad you asked. I'll give you this one. It's a company called WeWumbo. And about a year and a half ago, I was talking about human outcomes, and someone said, have you heard of WeWumbo? And I said, what? He's like, WeWumbo. I'm like, okay. He said, it's the best company you'll see around human outcomes. And it's a startup out of Australia. And I will say this now, I do not have a financial stake or any other stake in this company, and it really pisses me off because I wish I did. I love this company. They don't need my money, unfortunately. But they've created something that is so innovative in the way they've grown, it blows my mind. And it's something incredibly boring. It's a condo app. People live in condos. You have an app to help you manage when you check in and all those things. But what they've done with it is fascinating, and how they've grown is fascinating. So basically, it was founded by a guy who was a property developer. And what he did is he built a purpose-built platform that delivers human outcomes to all the stakeholders in high-end residential real estate. That means the property owners, your building managers, facility managers, concierges, and tenants. And what he does is he just tries to solve their problems for them. And I'm going to walk you through the steps that they followed, and I'm going to add in a step at the end of where I think they should go next. But the first thing he did is he understood all those different stakeholders and what they wanted. If I'm a building manager, strata manager, concierge, it's all about operational efficiencies. And then he focused on really delivering a true experience for the residents. And then he also went on the capital growth side for the developers because they invest to make money. So he understood that, and then he built out this platform that has all the things that their tenants need, whether it's going to be all your documents related to your lease, about the equipment and devices and kitchen appliances you have in your house or your condo. It allows you to do all your meeting bookings. If you need a massage, they've got it on there. If you need a contractor, it's got it on there. Everything's in one place. And they did the exact same thing for the building managers. And this is great because suddenly now they had all that information in one place. But let's face it, a lot of companies claim they can do that. I've literally looked at dozens of these apps, and they all are pretty poor at best. So what they're also able to do is create stickiness. So if you've already built the app, how do you get people to actually use it? Because in Singapore, I lived in a condo. I had one. Then they switched to another one, so I used it one time each time because the app was horrible user experience. They built it up to a way where they get 25 to 45% monthly active users on this app. That means using it at least one time per month. That's pretty impressive. But then they started to really scale fast. By the time I talked to them, they had already taken over the Australian real estate market, all the high-end residential. What was interesting is when I talked to him, he was just about to go into New Zealand. Within the first 4 months of them going into New Zealand, they secured 190 high-end residential developments with 2 people on the ground. So think about that. They've just scaled. They just took over an entire country, not a big country, but another country's real estate market in 4 months. Now they're going into Miami in the US, and they're in Europe as well. So they scaled fast. Then what they did is they said, okay, we got to grow more because we can't just keep growing countries. So they became the ecosystem hub. So it's everything from all the building management systems that run the building to the types of appliances that are going to be in the building to the whole marketplace. And they have 350 plus partners where they're the central hub for it. And 2 of those biggest partners are Samsung and ABB. And what they're actually doing is building a whole greenfield estate in South Australia right now backed by Samsung, backed by ABB, all being run by WeWumbo. So they've become the hub. They just solve problems for everybody, but they need to make money, so they look for new revenue streams. They have all these people that are using their app. Well, if you're in Australia and New Zealand, you use Harvey Norman if you need a new refrigerator, TV, anything like that. So what they did is they built that into the app, and they get a small percentage on it. But if I order a new refrigerator, I need to have somebody come and install it. They also work with a company called Circle Group, which has 14,000 contractors around the country. It's all done. Everything is simplified inside of one app. The dog's another story. It's my favorite thing. I've learned now from him that dogs, or pets ownership, is highest in the world in Australia. So what do? They run pet days. Now what's happened? People realized that this one small WeWumbo company has more information about pet owners than any other company out there. So now they all want to work with him to actually reach these people because he's sort of the data owner on who owns a pet and who has medium to high net worth. So it's just an interesting way. They've taken a basic core boring platform and branched out into all these different ways and help people in different ways. And then they start to evolve with AI. So they've created something called Wumbo AI, which helps building managers save up to 80% of their time. And I can only give you one because the other two will be released soon. The one they did initially is something as simple as helping the concierge with packages that get delivered. Now, in their average development, they know that it takes 8 hours per week of concierge time to actually manage these packages. All they do now is scan it with the phone. That goes automatically, gets translated, transcribed, put into the system, logged, notifications sent for pickup, and delivery picked up or scheduled. It takes away 80% of their time right there. It saves them that much time. That's the first step on it. As you start growing that way, now they should be going after the adjacencies. And this is what I'm telling them to do. Who else has tenants? Well, maybe not tenants. Who has employees? Well, commercial real estate, building managers, facilities managers. It's the same audience you're going after. Same with mixed use, except you add in consumers. This type of a platform, it's the way they should be looking at going next. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. Okay, now we got to get into GenAI because obviously everybody wants to talk about GenAI, but I'm going to be really quick about it. I love GenAI. I think it's the most transformative piece of technology I've seen in 25 years. I find it amazing. It allows us to talk to technology in our language. And that's what's so transformative, and I'll cover off why I think that's important. But guess what we're doing? Overhype, we're oversimplifying it, we're under-delivering it. As consumers, we know what to do with it. As businesses, we are nowhere close yet. But this is something that is going to be the poster child for Amara's Law. And Amara's Law says we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run, so we hype it, but then we underestimate the impact in the long run. Mark my words, go back in 10 years from now, this will transform the way that we work, live, and play, and the way that we manage and experience our buildings. But I'm going to talk about a very complex topic in very simple terms. How many people have heard of RAG? Okay, good, that's great. It's probably the worst acronym that we've come up with as an industry. RAG, well, the first time I heard it, I just went, oh my God, that's the best we can do. I'm not gonna explain to you in detail what it is, but at a very high level, it's like ChatGPT, but instead of imagine if you asked ChatGPT a question and it didn't just go out and get it from the average of everything in the world, you could then go into your own proprietary docs in your content management, your PDFs, your PowerPoint docs, and pull it out. But don't even remember that. Remember this, RAG is about weeks to days to hours. That's all it is. And I'm going to explain it to you by explaining a wind turbine, because I'm not an expert in wind turbines. I know there's wind, it hits the blades, they go spinny, spinny, magic happens and you get electricity. That's all I know, but I know they can break down. And in the old days, what would happen is, you'd find out the turbine isn't working, you'd go walking up in there, go look around, try and identify the fault, find the manual, and let's face it, there could be 50 manuals for one turbine. And then go through that to figure out what needs to be done, what parts I need to order, create a work order, schedule the repair. That's a human process. That takes 2 weeks. But then we had Industry 4.0. We had predictive analytics, and something as simple of being notified of that issue, and then going through those same steps, where you identify the fault, find the manual, work order, schedule the repair. We've integrated a machine process to a human process, and it got 2 weeks down to 2 days. Now with RAG, leveraging GenAI, where we can just go and talk to it, I can be notified of the issue, and I can go in there and just say, it says that this is not working. What are the possible faults that it could be? And then it would actually identify the fault for you. And then I could say, well, fine, go to the manual, and let's do the troubleshooting, and let me know what I should do. And it tells me, it goes to the manual, goes through the 400-page manual, finds a section saying, this is what's wrong, these are the parts you need. You schedule the work order, schedule the repair and create the work order. Now this process gets it down to 2 hours. And this is human-machine collaboration. This is where we're not being replaced by computers. We're leveraging technology to actually collaborate with it to do our process faster. So 2 hours is a nice reduction in time. So again, what we're talking about is weeks to days to hours, and it's not any different than this. When I studied finance and economics at university, I used to use this HP-12C calculator. The manual is like this thick to how to do your net present value and IRR functions. Then suddenly we had Excel and everything was easy peasy. You just sort of could plug it in right there. Now that didn't replace bankers. It didn't mean that I didn't understand banking. It made my life easier because instead of typing everything in, it does it automatically. That's all we're talking about with RAG. And now as I close out, I know you don't care about wind turbines. What does this have to do with smart buildings? Well, what if we took WeWumble, that company I talked about earlier, and then you combined it with GenAI, where instead of just looking at my documents on the app, I could start talking to the documents and then getting all of access to my air conditioning units, my repair for my refrigerator, all those manuals. That would be very transformative. But what if it's not WeWumbo? What if it's the app that you have that actually runs the buildings, that your facilities managers are using as they go to repair an HVAC or as they go to repair a lighting system? What if you had all of that in there and you could transform the way they work? See, this type of human-machine collaboration will eventually transform how we experience and manage buildings in the future. But it's not really going to take us, it's going to take us quite a long time. We are not quite ready for this yet. It's going to go on, but we will get there. Because human-machine collaboration, it's going to transform the way we work, live, and play. This idea that we can talk to technology and machines in our language is transformative. And as long as we remember that technology exists to deliver human outcomes, we'll get there. So please focus on the human outcomes. Thank you very much.